It's gonna be a good one.
It's gonna be a good one.
Definitely a different type of process.
Cut down or freeze up.
Being coach's son. Jackson, of course, they keep reaching him. What's going on? A hit by pitch. Oh
my. Welcome everybody to the Hitting Zone podcast. This is where we take tough subjects and we crush those. And if you like what we're doing, you need to go follow me on all my socials. We got the Hitting Zone on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat. I use Instagram and TikTok the most. Type in the Hitting Zone because I think I had to do like 3 or 4 different ones. I'm not sure which one's the newest one, but my Instagram, it's at the Hitting Zone, THZ _ something like that. I don't know. Just Google me. You can find me somewhere. But anyways, I probably should get that information, so I'll work on that. But you're going to want to follow us so that you can get topics like this because we're going to share these on our podcast or on our social medias, the Hitting Zone podcast. Big shout out to Game 7 Baseball and the support for YBM and the Hitting Zone podcast. You need to go check out their schedule. They currently got their 2026 season posted. So make sure that you're going over there to get take advantage of the discounts. You got to sign up early to get down into like their Branson events. We'll probably end up going down there again. I love it going down there, especially early. I don't like all the traffic, so I go down early as opposed to later in the season. Huge shout out to Prime Sports Midwest, 3 locations, Fenton, Chesterfield, and St. Peter's. You can get your gear online. You can obviously go in store. That's what I'm going to recommend so that you can try on your gloves, try on your batting gloves, make sure you get the right size. You ain't got to do the whole shipping thing back and forth. And of course, the YBM Club. I'm sure you heard about it. It's coming in 2026. Membership perks. Like we have some on there, some cage time, some membership access, little discounts. And that's going to be an exciting thing. So make sure that you stay up to date with the YBM Club. Make sure that you're up there and hit that notification, that dinger, so that you can get fun podcasts like this one and other guests that we have. I guess they're not guests. I don't know what you call them. Hostess with the mostest, and have fun topics on there and have your athletes watch because I think it's important for them to kind of see what's going on and the different opinions and voices. And maybe you can learn something from them, and especially the parents. Tune in, and you can do that with the audiobooks, and you can listen to them while you're at work, while you're need an hour or 2. But anyways, we've had this guest on before from the Kansas City area. Just a little bit of a shout out to the Kansas City Royals for hiring one of my friends to do their minor league pitching development. He's a pitching coach in the lower levels. Just got picked up. Anthony Silkwood. He former Marine, so happy Veterans Day to him. Actually, one day come out and pitched against us after spending 5 years of service and was like 90, 92, sharp slider. And I'm like, where'd this dude come from? And end up coaching Louisville, and down at Jacksonville State with Jameson, and then made his way all the way up to the Royals. So huge shout out to him. But Gonzo, if you could just introduce yourself to our fans. It's been a while since I've had you on my show.
Mm-hmm. So my full name is Gonzo Gonzalez. Everybody calls me Gonzo. I am the pitching coordinator here for Mac-N-Seitz Baseball Academy in Martin City, Missouri.
And that is what is the closest big city? Like Lee Summit?
Yeah, Lee Summit would probably be closer. Overland Park, Kansas. We're just right on the border of Kansas and Missouri.
I got you. Are you close to Kaufman or whatever it's called now? I still look
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so I think from here we're probably like 20-ish minutes from the K. So it's pretty cool.
So you're literally downtown.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I used to go. I went to Missouri Western, and so we would take 70 up to I guess it was 435 or whatever that was. Up to 29, and that's how we would go. So I never had to do, go through the downtown usually, But now they
Mhm.
have you kind of directing through downtown and closer to
Mhm.
the airport that direction. So I'm not too familiar with that space other than maybe Kemper Arena, but um, or whatever it is called now. But
Mhm.
not too familiar with the location, so I apologize. Just because I never really had to
All
go
good.
past the K or past 40
Yeah.
35. Um,
All good.
but anyways, I'm excited because you use the term pitching coordinator, which
Yeah.
I want to talk about today. And obviously, it's called the hitting zone, but we talk about all topics, and I think this is important to talk about. Athletes have always trained, right? And today it seems like very few are actually programming their training, and they're just kind of going through motions. They're going through, kind of whatever they're being told. And, there's some short term success there because I still think there's value in having lessons and, one on ones and, 30-minute sessions and things like that. But I've been getting more invested into programming in the last year, specifically because I've seen the growth of the athlete that sticks to a plan. And
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to, talk about that and kind of talk about what real programming is and how it's something that we really need to invest in as parents and athletes. And what are your thoughts on programming versus the standard? When I think programming, I'm thinking like group sessions, group breakouts,
Mhm.
things like that.
Mhm.
Have you seen a big growth in the long term success of programming versus the one-on-one lesson that might be 30 minutes long or one
Yeah.
time a week kind of
Mhm.
vibe?
So I think it's a combination of both is probably going to be the best outcome for the athlete, right? So the one-on-one sessions, in my opinion, you can't replace that because not only on the sports specific side, it's great for you as a coach to be able to get to know that kid, the relationship with him, and that's where you build your trust. But the other part of it too is that those one-on-one sessions allow, like for me, for example, to take a look at how an athlete moves, get an understanding of what they do and what they don't know. There's a lot of things that come out of it. Now, I can't speak for other places and how they do things, but I know here for us, when I go about doing one-on-one sessions, I also, depending on the athlete and the age, I will give them things to do throughout the week. That way, when they come back in 2 weeks or a week, whatever they decide to do, they have an idea of like, okay, we're building upon this hour or 30-minute session. And now I have a clear cut plan of what to do for the following week or two. So by the time I do get back, we see better growth. And it's for me, the one on one session is great only if there's a plan put in place that allows us to create more of a development process for the child and where they need to be going physically or where they need to be going with their movement patterns. So that's where the programming comes into place. I know here for us at Mac-N-Seitz, one of the things that we've highly invested in is rehauling our strength and conditioning and how that integrates with our throwing and our hitting. So we had a facility come in and they're called Top Speed. They're really well known here in the Kansas City area. They have a lot of professional athletes that come and train with them on the football side and the baseball side. So the cool thing with them is the person here in the building, Jake Owens, is a former baseball player, does a phenomenal job with our kids. And we have basically daily meetings. I'll go in the weight room with him. We'll talk about what we're doing on the throwing side, how that integrates with the strength and conditioning, and what we're getting ready for. And so when we have a clear cut plan of coaches talking, understanding how these programs flow together, kids get way more out of this instead of us kind of being in our own little entities. And now it's like, okay, everything's integrated and we're all pulling in the same direction for, the sake of our program and the sake of our kids.
When you run kind of your programming side and just kind of well, I might take a step back because I think everybody
Mhm.
has their own opinion on what programming is. For me,
Mhm.
what it sounds like is you're giving more of a hybrid style model where you have these one-on-one lessons in person, but a lot of this work is also on your own. So,
Yes.
when you program these athletes, are you? I see a big board behind you, so I'm assuming that board. I can't see it, read it, but it's got to have
Yeah.
some sort of schedule or structure that's being built on there. Do you use like a software? And you may not have to. You don't have to actually say the name of the software company if you don't want to. But do you use a
Mhm.
software, or do you use things like Google Forms or Docs to help your
So
athletes program?
So for us, I know I use Google File and Google Folder for a lot of our guys. On the weight room side, they have a different program that they run. I can't remember what it's called, but like for example, we have a couple of kids that recently committed, and I had them shut down after a long summer, a long fall. So they went to kind of like deload phase. So I took the opportunity during those couple of weeks where they were deloaded to build out a plan to build back into live at bats and get them ready for their high school tryouts. So what I'll do in that Google form is I'll lay out their mobility, I'll lay out their like med ball work, their pre-throw routine, their throwing routine, and their cool down routine. Now all of this is going to be based upon the information that's given to me by our strength and conditioning coach. So he'll take them through a physical assessment and they'll take them through like thoracic rotation, they'll take them through flexion and extension of the spine. They'll take them through hip mobility. And what we do is try to look at what is the lowest bearing fruit for that athlete. And based upon the physical assessment and then based upon how they've been throwing, that gives me a clear indication of where I need to go with their programming when they start to throw or hit again. So that way they're hitting the ground running and they're working on these lower bearing fruits. So they're able to hopefully get to the place they need to get to as far as their command, velocity, and just their overall like developing their arsenal.
You know, it's I love the direction kind of the sport is going. Because I don't think that we it's been a long time since we've seen athletes like this in baseball. And maybe this is the first time ever, just seeing the overall ability of these athletes. Because it used to be like you could pretty much stereotype almost every kid in baseball. Like certain guys played first and third and caught and corner outfield and stuff like that. And now you're seeing just like I know when you're getting recruited, every coach wants a shortstop, right, or center fielder, second baseman,
Mhm.
and then they kind of just disperse those into those other positions. I'm looking at the athleticism of today, and if you don't have something like this in place, you're getting surpassed in today's
Yeah.
game. When kind of, I'm not sure how old you are. I'm not going to ask. I'm 45, but it for me, and this could be a demographic thing, just because of Latin athletes train very different than American athletes. But
Mhm.
the when I grew up, I literally was outside all the time, and if I wanted to be picked second or third or somewhere other than last, I had to adjust. I had to learn. I
Mhm.
had to learn the hard way. I got made fun of. The different things like that, and that's how we became better at the game. We obviously played outside for football and all these other things, and we were never inside. There's this huge desire right now to just be the best athlete that you can be, and
Mhm.
I think it's majorly important. I think it's a big deal to have this program because you just cannot do one thing anymore. Do you
Yeah.
when did you start to see the game? Because I think I missed this part, right? Because I've always been so focused on like back in my day, I give you
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Gen X stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like back in my day, we did
Yeah.
this, whatever. That's gone. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And so it seems like the investment now needs to be in programming and versus
Mhm.
even almost the team setting. Do you
Yeah.
think that the investment needs to be multiple days a week? You have to get in the gym. You have to do your one-on-one breakouts. You have to go outside and play catch if you want to be at a certain level in today's game.
Unfortunately, yes. Like that's where we're at. It requires a massive investment on the individual if they want to get to where they see themselves going. And I'm 34. So when I started to see this stuff, it was right around like I want to say when I started in college baseball around 2010, 2011, right around when Driveline was breaking out and they started doing programming for guys. And the guys that could afford it, they did that kind of stuff, right? And a lot of guys couldn't. But now, we have this generation of kids growing up now, or even the last like 5 to 6 years, guys that have gone through Driveline, guys that have gone through even Premier there in St. Louis, or guys that have gone through Tread that are now going into the market as like more individualized coaches that are being able to provide this. So we're seeing kids specialize, I think, at a younger and younger age. And there could be a debate there of like whether that's a good or a bad thing. But where the way baseball is going, it almost feels like by the time you're 15, you have to make a decision, right? And I don't say that lightly because I like guys that play multiple sports. I like guys that are able to do that. But in the same breath, that athlete has to be able to be good at both of those things. And if you got a kid that's, okay at baseball and he's playing football, he's playing basketball, but he's, 17 with no offers, like that's the kind of guy that probably should step away from basketball, probably should step away from football and put all his energy into the thing that he truly loves and wants to do for a long term. That's where it's more of an individualistic approach that conversation needs to happen between the parents and the kid to go, okay, like we know you love it. We know it's part of the high school experience, but if this is what you want to do, at some point you have to make a decision because your effort is going into three different things. What would it be if you were just to dive all the way into one thing? Does that make sense? And
Uh,
it's a hard conversation to have because kids want to be kids, and I don't blame them, but where we're going with baseball and how good some of these kids are getting at a young age, it's it's cool, but it's also very scary. It's
yeah,
it's nuts.
I was gonna use that term scary because I say this all the time. I want the multi-sport athlete. I say it all the time.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, wait a minute. We brought this up last week with Cody Massey. I don't know if you know who that is. He runs Buzzin' Baseball down here. I did a show with him last week. And he talked about the time spent that these young people have because we were talking about things like practice.
Mhm,
Allen Iverson's we're
mhm,
talking about practice.
mhm.
Anyways, the he got to just talking about the different directions these kids are pulled in at young ages. So I wanted
Yeah.
to ask that, like, what is actually, you kind of use like 15 as the benchmark of saying, well, now you have to make tough decisions. Is it actually almost a little bit sooner, like 13 and 14 years old? Because you're s- when you're getting to 15, you're still seeing really unathletic kids, and we're trying to mold these over the next 3 to 4 years into something special. Is it almost starting to get into like the 13U age group where we need to start developing a little bit sooner just because there's not enough time? And I know that there's maturity level changes,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think it's tough for me to identify. Like, I always use high school freshmen as the breaking point because that's when a lot of kids
Yeah.
quit in general. They just
Mhm.
quit in general. They didn't want to go a different, whether it's a different sport, whatever. Their true
Yeah.
passions are somewhere else. So I always use the same age, 15. For, a freshman in high school. Is it actually?
Mhm,
And I could be wrong. That's why I'm asking the question. Is it
mhm.
13U where you really have to start really investing into you as the product, as the brand?
I think this goes back to this is a gray area. It depends on the individual and it depends on the kid in the family, right? And I mean, let's face it, baseball is not a cheap sport anymore. And basketball has never been cheap, football has never been cheap. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, like there's a monetary side of this too, and then there's like the passion part of it. Now, like for example, we have some 13s and 14s here at the facility that have made the decision to just go all in on baseball. And me, being invested in these kids and their lives, like I will go and ask them, why did you make that decision? And they'll say, hey, like when I'm not playing baseball, that's all I can think about. I want to be better. I want to be do this. I want to do that. I'm like, okay, I ask that question because I want you to understand what you're committing to. I don't want you to blankly make this decision and regret that you didn't get a chance to do the things you wanted to do as a kid and miss out on those experiences. So that's what I try to convey to our kids is like, okay, if this is what you want to do, understand what you're truly committing to and understand what it takes. So let's say we have a kid who is a crazy athlete. He's really good at everything, right? As far as like on the baseball field, but he also likes to play basketball, likes to play football, wants to wrestle, whatever the case is. I'm like, cool, man, go do it. Because a guy like you, I know you're going to hit on your own. I know you're going to go and play catch with dad. Like, I'm not worried about you. But if there's a kid who is, okay at certain positions, okay at the plate, but he's telling me he has certain aspirations and what he wants to do going into high school, I'm like, okay, what sports do you play? And he'll rattle off two, three. I'm like, okay, pick two. Like, pick two and put your time into the two that you really like. And once you feel like your back is up against it in the sense of like your recruitment or your development, then pick one. So it's really hard to say like this is a cutoff date. It's I don't think there is. I think you should play as many sports as you possibly can for as long as you can. But once it gets to the point where the recruiting side is starting to get big, or even the opposite, where you're not getting recruited and it's something that you still want to do, hard decisions have to be made at that point.
So that always brings me back to back in my day.
Mhm.
But the you just said the young man that plays all these multiple sports, that's the uber athlete, and yet he's out there playing catch with his dad after football practice, or he's hitting on his own after basketball practice, or maybe before basketball practice, or games, whatever the case may be. What you're telling me is that this elite level group of kids is doing this on their own, and truthfully, if we actually sit down and look in the mirror and go, if I just went outside more, I could do all of these things at a high level, but I have to do them all the time. So if I want to
Yeah.
be an elite level quarterback, I still have to throw the football. If I want to be an elite
Yep.
level pitcher, I still have to throw the baseball. If I want to be an elite level wrestler, I still have to lift. I still have to eat right. I still have to learn how to cut weight. And if I want to be an elite level basketball player, I still have to do my jump routines. And so
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is that if you want to be good at all these things, you have to do all these things every
Yep.
day, which something
Yeah.
suffers, right? At the end of the day, something's going to suffer. It could be grades, it
Yeah.
could be relationships, it could be friends, it could be video games, and that is the suffering I think that
Yeah.
you have, and you don't always see the kid that plays four sports have that 4.0 GPA. They might
Mhm.
have something that's a three, which, is a B average or whatever. But some people, shame on a kid for
Mhm.
that. But I'm like, they're elite. They're literally, you have no idea the time and dedication that they're putting in. And it just so happens to be that they miss out on some great
Yeah.
opportunities in school. I'm not saying that's right
Yeah.
or wrong, because obviously long term, the school and the
Yeah.
education is the most important thing. But
Yeah.
I the programming piece brings that dedication that they need. Going back
Yeah.
to the
You know,
programming.
yeah, and what you're talking about is sacrifice. And the way I view it, and even with my kids, I have a 6-year-old and a 5-year-old. Like, obviously, that's super young, but you know, they, we talk about it now. It's my son, both my sons, they love baseball. They're around it all the time, and I ask them, and I try to push it as a father, like, dude, let's go do karate. Let's go do something different, And they're like, no, like this is what we want to do. I'm like, okay, but I'm going to keep asking them. I'm going to keep pushing different things. But if that's what they want to do, then that's what they want to do. But getting back to the point is, I also think part of this suffering, sacrificing, is a lot of character building. I think a lot of kids don't really understand what it means to sacrifice. They don't really understand what it means to make hard choices. And if a kid is making these choices at an earlier age, I mean, that's to me, that's part of the character process too, right? And going back to what you were talking about with the programming, then that kid is mentally preparing themselves to go down this road of, okay, if we're going to program, that means I'm lifting 3 to 4 days a week. That means that I'm like at least hitting 2 to 3 days a week, and I'm throwing the baseball depending on what season we're in, right? You know, like every day, or if every other day, whatever the program calls for, depending on the season that we're in. So it's a lot, but at the same time, it's dreams are crazy, and in order to achieve them, you got to do crazy things.
You're 100% correct. I think back to like my high school days, and I talked to a buddy. He's like, "Man, I didn't do baseball when I did football." And I go, "Well, wait a minute." I was like, how many days did you play catch during the week?" He goes, "I threw a baseball every day." And I go, "Then you did baseball." And it's like we're so geared towards this, like, I have to train. It's really that it's don't look at it as training, in my opinion. Look at it as going and having fun, learning how to
Mhm.
throw like the best shortstop in the game, learn how to hit like the guys on TV. And I'm not saying that is a change from, your style or however you're working with your mechanics and stuff like that. But I wanted to hit like Barry Bonds. I'm a right-handed hitter. Didn't make sense, but I sure did try to flip. I tried to hit like King Griffey Jr. I tried to hit like Jeff Bagwell. If you don't know those names, go
Mhm.
look them up. But and the goofy stances, the Mickey Templetons of the world. I don't know if you know who that is. He used to have his
Mhm.
bat pointed straight at the pitcher,
Yep.
or way
Mhm.
out here, and it was all about just getting to back to a spot to be able to hit it, because I had to get into one spot to hit, right? So I had to do these things. That, to me, in a nutshell, is training. But I was having fun, right? And so it
Mhm.
didn't seem like work, so it wasn't difficult. And that's where, like, you, I don't think people quite understand what we're doing right now or after the season ended. If you played fall ball or not, I don't know. But what happens from the end of summer till the beginning of high school tryouts? And it's not even there you stop, right? Like, you cannot stop building, and it seems like more people need help. So what would your words of advice be to a parent right now that's like, "Man, we pay $3,000 for the club, and we get 6 weeks of training, or 12 weeks of training, and we're there, twice a week, and then I put in my own work, whatever." But their kid's
Mhm.
not growing. So
Mhm.
how much, like, because this is where I'm like, okay, you're not growing, right? We're not seeing velo changes. We're not seeing exit velo trainings. What's your gym routine like? What's your nutrition like? What's your daily routine? What's your weekly routine? What's your dream outcome? And how does
Mhm.
everything that you do add up to that? How important is
Mhm.
it and how many parents do you actually think know that, hey, I actually might need to step in here and push the envelope to my kid to actually
Mhm.
invest in yourself, not the team
Yeah.
sport. I know you work for Mac-N-Seitz, and I have a club too. How much I push to be more focused on you, on your return on investment, because I think that's the biggest
Mhm.
investment, needs to be you, not who you
Yeah.
play for or the name across the chest. It's got to be what you're doing, whether that's playing catch with your
Yeah.
dad or going to URI
Yeah.
for hitting and pitching. So
Mhm.
back to the question again, though, how many parents do you actually think understand the importance, even athlete wise, without having conversations like this? Because I don't think people understand how important it is.
I don't think a lot of people understand. And the parents that tend to understand the most are the ones that did it themselves. The guys and the gals that played in college or, went through it, they understand. And those are the ones that tend to like get their kids in here and push them and then the kids start to understand, right? And yeah, it's there's a that's where I think the miscommunication can come because everything comes in waves, right? So what I mean by this is let's say we take a 15-year-old, okay? And I can only talk about what we do, what I've done with players. And so when the summer ended, we went through like a 2 to 3 week kind of hiatus of a deload. Okay. So I went through and I looked at all of our players as far as in the pitching side is concerned, all their innings that they have accumulated between their spring and summer season. If they got above 40 innings, it was an automatic 2 week no throw. Automatic. If they were under that, it was a deload, meaning they still threw, but it was 2 weeks of recovery catch play so they could continue to get back into it. Because the stress level and the intensity wasn't there to for me to say, hey, you need to completely shut down. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So once we do that, we'll go into our fall and we had right now we went through like a 10-week buildup for our PBR event. Now that PBR event just happened. We got the numbers back from TrackMan, did all that stuff, and now we're going into a 3 week deload again. So we did this to get these guys to understand at this point in time, it is November. If you are PRing in November, I am not doing my job. That is way too early to be PRing. That is way too early for you to feel like you're hitting the gas pedal. Like the whole point of us doing this event is because we just don't have trackmans here. So the trackmans give me the information that I need as a coach to understand where I need to go for the next 2 months to program and develop for these kids. That way, I have a benchmark for all of our pitchers of where they're at on November 8th, and then we're going to see where they're at come January. So if you're PRing in January, I did my job. If you're moving better in January, I did my job. That's when we should start to see things kind of move an upward trend. My goal getting them to this point is getting through these last 10 weeks with better movement patterns, seeing better 30 times, seeing better broad jumps, seeing better vertical jumps, seeing them spin the ball better, having a better arsenal, and are they consistent and holding their velocity? So again, we had a kid here at the end of the summer. He was like 73, 72, but could really pitch it. Obviously, a kid like that's going to want to throw hard. Just at the PBR event, he was 77, 78. So that's a 5 to 6 mile an hour jump. Now, for me, that's great, but it also puts up red flags because that's a huge jump in such a short amount of time, and he was happy and I was happy for him. But then I told him, okay, like we need to like tone things down a little bit. And, our goal now in 2.5 months is see if we can turn that into 80, 81 with control. And are you now sitting 78, 79? So there's ladders to this, right? A lot of times kids don't see it that way, parents don't see it that way, and they're like, well, why isn't Johnny doing this, doing that, doing that? I'm like, part of understanding the process and the program is the one thing that none of us can control, and that is physical maturity. The only thing that dictates that is time. Give the kid time. Give him a chance to grow. Give him a chance to get into his body. Give him a chance to understand how he's moving through space. And the only way that we can do that as coaches is to give him the freedom to fail and learn. That's it.
Man, there's a whole lot to digest in that right there. And it's funny because I think this has always been the case for athletes, right? It's chasing the velo numbers. It's wanting to get to a certain spot or spin the baseball, have the big curveball, big slider, have the ball dance, all these different ways that we're seeing. And you literally have a kid that has this 5 or 6 mile an hour jump, and you immediately go, I'm happy, but you got to pump the brakes just a little bit and look back and go, what was it? Why, and all of a sudden break that down and then tell that kid, well, we're not going to chase 80 right away, and then you
Yeah.
got to give him the time to develop again. And it's this desire with everything that's such a quick result, right? Like your cell phone in your pockets, the ability to communicate is so much easier through that. And it's like everything can happen just like this, except for sports. And you said something about um, college specific or somebody that's been through it. I noticed that you didn't use baseball or softball. You used sports in general. I mean, that's what my perception was. And
Hmm.
I think if people just kind of related back to like, how long did it take you to learn your job? Whatever your job is. If you're a tradesman, how long did it take you to learn that skill? How long did it take you to learn how to become a head chef in a kitchen? You don't just all of a sudden cook gourmet dinners without being somebody a fry station or mixing salad dressings, and being the low guy here, but you have to work yourself into positions. I think that's why I like trades so much, is because you don't get to just be right here. You have to work, you have to fail, you have to adjust, you have to be yelled at. And all of a sudden, next thing you know it, you're really good at your job. And now you're making the money that you want to make. Everybody just wants to be $100,000 a year person. Everybody wants to be a big league pitcher. And they're not putting in the time.
Hmm.
Nobody understands that it actually is the people that got there really fast probably put in way more time on their own.
Yeah.
If you wanted to be a really good cook, they were probably watching the cooking channel instead of watching, uh, a movie about a USC quarterback, on Prime. So it's just like when I go back and look, it's like, well, my grades weren't great because all I cared about was sports and lifting weights. I wanted to be the
Yeah.
most confident person I could be. So I stayed in the gym. All the gym did was help me become a better player. I probably should have went and focused on football because that was my size and the direction and the best offers that I got to play at a high level. I had a potential to be a D1 football player. I loved baseball. I wanted to prove everybody wrong that a big guy could play baseball. And back then it was like I had to be the perfect specimen. I mean, the Marines didn't want me because I was too heavy. They told me that the Navy needed a cook. That's actually what the recruiter for the Marines told me. I was like, "Man, I'm a lunatic. I could be a Marine." Uh, I was 6 foot tall, but I wasn't like 185 pounds. They wanted that lightweight kind of
Mhm.
size. And I'm like, well, work me into it, man. And there's like the Navy needs a cook. I was like, I'm not peeling potatoes. uh, but baseball is this passion, and I just want to help kids so much. And I'll be quite honest, I'm not a big fan of the one-on-one sessions unless they're intentional, which is
Yep.
the conversations to be had. And I think that's a good thing because we're starting to learn more as coaches how intentional we have to be and direct with these players. And do you think
Yeah.
like the um do you like to do group lessons, or like do you I'm assuming you like to get paid, so you like to do it all, but the
Yeah.
I would rather be a part of a group session consistently. Like if I let's say I'm in a 6 month program, I want
Mhm.
that to be a 6 month group setting. I love competition. I love the motivation in the gym. The open gyms seem to get better. Uh, the breakout sessions, the one-on-ones, they become real personal and they don't need an hour. They need go get loose on your own. You know the routine to get loose. Let's spend 15
Mhm.
minute conversations together, adjust, see you later next week kind of thing. That's how I like to run my programming. Are you similar to that, or do you like to get a little bit more
Yeah.
invested in your one-on-ones?
So for me, it depends on the player again, right? This goes right back to the individual. But I really like the one-on-ones because of the relationships that I get to build. And it goes back to what we talked about earlier is I also give my one-on-ones that are consistent and invested and I know they're going to do it. I give them things to do on their own. That way, parents and kids feel like they didn't waste their time or money coming in for just a one session thing. It's like, hey, like if I want to help you, if you want my help, you have to understand that this isn't just a one-on-one thing. This is not a weekly thing. This is a process. So whenever I start with, let's say, a new athlete, a new parent, I after we do our session, whatever the case is, I always leave 5 minutes the first time, 5 minutes at the end to talk to the parent with the kid, and I tell them, hey, okay, so here's the deal. You're here because you love baseball. You want to get better. Yes. Okay, understand your parents are taking time, money, and effort to be here. So, what I'm going to do as a coach is give you that time and effort as well. All I ask in return is the same. This isn't just you showing up and expecting 30 minutes is going to do its job. This is you coming in because you want to start on a journey with me together for us to go in the right direction. And if you can't be consistent, and I say this right in front of the parents, they understand. If you can't be consistent with the work that you put in on your own, we will stop doing one-on-ones. There's no reason for you to waste your parents' time, money, and effort if you're not going to put forth the effort that is required every day to do this. And sometimes they get looks, sometimes the parents are like, "Yeah, that's awesome," and usually the parents are like, "Oh, that's pretty tough." They'll come back to me after a month of doing this and they'll go, "Thank you." Like that this has changed him and we've never seen him this invested into wanting to show up more. And that's for me, it's like if I can make the relationship with them on the one-on-one side and get them to understand what we're truly trying to do, it is amazing the change that we see within the kid, not just physically, but mentally showing up every day, right? And as far as the group stuff's concerned, I love to do group stuff too. but I want it to be consistent. I want it to be players that are going to be in, guys that I'm seeing consistently week to week, month to month, so I can keep track of like where we're going. And I can go back to the parents, I can go back to their coaches in the summer and say, hey, this is what we've been doing over the last couple of months. They've been made great progress. Please keep me informed with how they're doing, and I'm going to be out watching them, things like that. So I think both settings are great. It just depends on the needs of the individual. Now, if a kid needs like let's say we have a group of 4 or 6 kids, right? And these kids have played together, they've been around each other, the chemistry is good. That's great. Like that, as a setting like that, I know that I can do certain things with those type of kids, right? So I like to keep that type of group together. And then if I have another group of kids that don't know each other, first time in the building, first time doing anything like this, I want to keep those kids together. That way I can keep that plan moving in the same direction for the group, and then from there I can start to individualize. But if I have a group of kids that, you know, half of them have been through it, they know what they're doing, and another group that's like they don't really know what's going on, and I'm having to go back and forth, that can be a little challenging as a coach. I mean, we still get it done, but it's just not to the benefit of each kid in that session.
Yeah, that makes sense. It reminds me when you talk about that of just thinking about the circle you hang out with, right? Like, so if
Mhm.
you hang out with a different crowd, they're going to pull you in a different direction. And so I like to try to put my athletes together. I don't want to have pitchers and hitters in the same practice trying to do the same things. I want to focus on certain elements of the game. And so I can't have a player that's, 3 elite level kids working with 2 kids that you really have to structure very differently, because those
Yes.
kids will get left behind. Because naturally, I think every coach ends up working or migrating to the kids that struggle the most, and then the kids that
Mhm.
that still need some encouragement or some change, advice, whatever, they could kind of get left behind. I do agree
Yeah.
that you have to do a really good job of making sure that you're like skilled. I surround myself with people that are like my answer. I work with Brian, is because the atmosphere here creates a great environment. You can have disagreements, you can work through them because you have to have conversations. And I love the fact that you address your parents a particular way, because one of my favorite things is when you get the parent that's all like gung ho. I'm a super, super aggressive dude when it comes to like trying to drive you. So if I'm getting trying to get motivation out of you, I am going to do my best to make sure I motivate you. If that means if I have to chew you out and get into you a little bit, I'm going to. If I have to do that a more passionate way, I'm going to do that, because you have to understand your athlete. It's always going back to the same thing you keep saying. Understand your player. You can't do that with the
Mhm.
break without breakout sessions or one-on-ones, whether they're a couple times a month. They don't have to be
Mhm.
every single week. And so this non I personally, the one-on-ones drive me crazy because you're doing the same thing for 6 hours, 5 times a week. It gets monotonous. Can't stand it. There's no feel good relationships like you had talked
Yeah.
about. And I think
Mhm.
the win that you get out of what we're doing by having those conversations, I guess there was a coach's appreciation day maybe a month or so ago. And I had an athlete, 9 years old, comes up and gives me a piece of paper, almost brought me to tears, almost brought me to tears. But he didn't want to cry just yet. And he said, "You're the best coach I ever had," and signed his
That's
name.
cool.
So he's 9. So the scribbles weren't fantastic. That made the whole journey of going from the high school side back to the 9U side. It does give me goosebumps still, because he didn't have to do that. And I'm like, buddy, you have 9 years. Just wait, because I'm pretty sure after like a couple weeks of practice in the springtime, you're not going to tell me I'm the best coach anymore, because I'm going to yell at you. But here's what happened. Here's what changed. Mom sent me a message afterwards and said, the structure and the direction that you've guided my son through whatever energy that you used has changed the way he was at school, at home, his chores. I didn't mean to do that. I'm not his parent. I'm not, and I'm not doing that. All I wanted him to do was focus. And I told him, if you want to be good at something, you have to stay locked in, buddy. And it literally changed how he was in school. And so I'm getting this thank you letter like I'm some great thing. I'm not. I'm just encouraging you to do something special. And for me, that was the victory. I don't care about his baseball skills anymore. They're
Mhm.
irrelevant because I'm trying to make a good human. And you cannot do that without the relationships that you build. And you do that through the programming because you're such invested in long term. Hey, did you get your lift in this week? No. Well, why didn't you get your lift in? You start asking
Yep.
these detailed questions and they start giving you all the excuses and you go, you're full of it. And then when you
Yep.
call them out on it, they don't like it. And then they get all huffy and puffy. And you're like, well, hey, buddy, I don't really care because at the end of the day, you're wasting your parents' money. And I really do hate the conversation about money because if you don't have it in today's games, it seems like it's very difficult to move on to the next levels if you don't have enough money. And I really dislike that. That's why I like some of the things that is happening kind of in our area with some of the organizations. They're trying to find ways to bring back, fundraising and things like that. That's kind of gone away over the last few years. I care more about the victory of that person focusing on his education, focusing on how to be a good son or daughter, with trying to develop baseball and softball skills, because that's what I do for a living, right?
Agreed.
Obviously. And that to me is what makes it worth it. And it's not every athlete, this.
Mhm.
And every parent loves what you just said, how tough you were on that kid until you're tough. Until you actually get into them a little bit, then they're like, hey, well, pump the brakes. You hurt my son's feelings. I'm like, no, your son actually doesn't really want it. You're trying to force it because you have the money to do it. Take your money elsewhere. Because I'll be honest with you, my ideal avatar or athlete is the athlete that wants it. If I want it,
Mhm.
or I'm sure that you're the same way, Gonzo, if you want it more than your athlete does, that's not a great relationship
No,
because all
it's
you're
not.
going to do is get
It's hard. It's
frustrated.
Yeah, that's it. And I want these kids to understand that it's baseball is such a beautiful sport and it teaches us so many things about life and character, all those tropes, that people talk about all the time. But, it's one of those things that we do in life that it doesn't give back unless you give yourself to it. And at the end of the day, you could give everything you can and still never come out on top, you know? But there's so many things you'll learn along the way about yourself and who you are as a person and what you're really about and what you truly value. And we've had kids that have gone through our organization that didn't play college baseball and they still come back and they're just like, thank you for everything you did. This is, I learned a lot just being around you and the way that you are. Like now I'm kind of out in the real world now and like I get it. I get why you were the way you were and I get why you talked the way you talked. And I want people to understand that at the end of the day, coaches don't just want their kids to get better. They want them to be better people. They want them to be people that are going to give back, people that are going to be self-motivated to get things done, whether, it's a job sitting behind a desk, being construction or whatever the case may be, whatever life calls them to do. Yeah. So,
I love that, man. It gives me this great feeling to be a part of something. Again, I said it earlier about your inner circle and kind of the people that you like to work with. There's a reason why I wanted you back on the show. One, I think you're a highly educated person when it comes to this sport. I think you spend a lot of time doing it, and just that dedication needs to be recognized on what you're trying to do. And so many people always tell us like they're only in it because it's this $15 billion sport, or whatever. And I'm like, there's a place for guys like us. But what you're going to get with guys like us is you're going to get guys that are dedicated to making your athletes better through whatever channels. And I bet you if an athlete came to you with a problem that was outside of the sport, you would stop and talk to them. You would probably keep that confidential, I'm guessing, so that you
yeah.
you don't lose that trust. And these are things like we're the the I guess the best, um I guess this right term, best satisfaction I have is when an athlete comes to me and can trust me to talk to me about something personal that they're going through, whether it's switching teams, whether it's a school problem, if maybe they're having troubles with a girlfriend or boyfriend, or that, it's always interesting how you become much bigger than just a baseball guy.
Okay.
You become
Yeah.
you could become a life coach. And I think baseball is the one sport that actually gives you almost everything that you can deal with in life. I don't know that
Mhm.
football does. I mean, I played football, but I didn't play college football. But you know, the I don't. I just remember hitting people in football. You know what I mean? I knew it took hard
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
I don't remember so much failure happening, so many relationships being built, and just the nuances of this game, like you had said. Gonzo, I'm gonna get you back on. So let's talk about maybe late December or early 2026. See how your winter program's going. Um, I always love chatting with you. One, I think you're the way that you speak to people and just in general the soft tones. I absolutely love every piece of it because it's got this trust factor. Um, and
Thank you. Yeah.
I love the interviews and podcast questions and answers kind of thing vibe. So let's get you on. I'll reach out to you, get you back on in
Okay.
2026. But tell everybody that's out there that's watching how we can follow Gonzo, or if you'd like to follow any kind of your programming, where can we find out information in the Kansas City area, or if you want to work with you, I guess remote. I'm sure you'd take that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I would just follow our Mac-N-Seitz Twitter page, follow our Mac-N-Seitz Facebook page, follow our Mac-N-Seitz Instagram page, and you can follow us there. And we put stuff out. We're starting to be a little bit better about the social media stuff. So I would just say follow the Mac-N-Seitz stuff, and you can follow along with what we're doing.
Last thing before we go here, the big board that's behind you. How much
Yeah,
does that how much does that board keep you in check in your structure, and how would you suggest parents and athletes using a big board like that, or goal
it's
board, whatever you want to call it?
yeah. Right now, there's not a whole lot on it, but I mean, I promise you, at certain points of the year, this thing is like crazy. But it helps me keep in check as far as like what we're doing every day, and I keep our big picture stuff over here. It's blank right now, just because we're done with that stuff right now. But eventually, it's gonna have like okay, like our dates for live at bats, our dates for showcases coming up, our dates for tryouts for our guys, and like that if I can work backwards from those big dates, it helps me just put things in order for all of our kids and make sure that keeps me in check, keeps me in line, and I'm doing what I can do to get these guys ready for these specific dates.
It's funny that you have programming on the back wall behind you. I
Yeah.
mean, that's how I look at it, right? It's the structure. So, Gonzo, man, I appreciate it. I got some more questions for you. Again, I'd like to actually bring this up in a few weeks, and continue to build on this conversation because I think it's an important topic for us to make sure that we are investing in our brand. And when I say brand, I'm talking about the personal brand. I know that there's
Mhm.
we have to have team sports, we have to play games, and we have to be a part of the team to understand and to learn. I think that us as parents and athletes, we need to really encourage the brand, us,
Mhm.
the athlete.
Mhm.
You could think different. That's fine. I know there's some major value into team sports because that's what happens in college. But again, if you don't invest in you, um, it's just one thing I learned. Alex Ramosi had posted this. He said, selling an average product, you get average results and you're going to go out of business. If you're going to have an average work ethic, you're going to have average results. You're going to find your way out of the sport. And that's how I perceived it into the baseball standards. So, any last words for any of our pitchers?
I got nothing right now. Just thank you for having me on, and it's always fun to be here talking baseball with you guys. So thank you for the opportunity.
Gonzo, I appreciate it as always, man. And have a great day and a great winter.
You thank you. You as well.
See you, bud.